Hey y'all, this is Looking Through the Glass. Thank you guys for joining another episode with us. We are your hosts, Sela and Jeselle, and today we have Emma Lyons with us. She very much came to us and we reached out and we very much were intrigued by her. And we would like to let her go ahead and take on introducing herself and what she is here for.
Thank you so much, Jess. Yes, my name is Emma Lyons, like they said, and what I do is I work primarily with women, and what I do is I help them dismantle and disconnect from shame, which I've discovered is the primary driver of all kinds of addictions, not just
Yes.
alcohol, drugs, but shame. Shame is kind of put out there as something that can be good for you, and what I've realized is that shame is never healthy. And this is really pushing against the conventional wisdom, because under conventional wisdom, we're told that there's such a thing as healthy shame. But from what I can see, shame, that's people conflating shame with something else when they say that it can be healthy. Shame is always toxic and it's always about control. And we also internalize this shame voice, which I've identified as a narcissistic voice that we all internalize. And this is the driver towards addiction, towards acting out, acting in, all kinds of things. Shame, it tells you to disappear. And this is why it's also very painful to experience shame. So this is why you pick up the drink, the whiskey bottle, or whatever it is, whatever your substance of choice is, in order to give you some relief from that. And I found a way to really start releasing that shame, because shame is something that's really afflicted me my whole life. Because probably like a lot of people out there listening, I was the scapegoat in my family, my dysfunctional narcissistic family. So I became kind of the landfill for the whole shame dysfunction of my family. And all this time I thought I was the one who was the problem, until I started to uncover the truth and started to really evict this shame voice that I had internalized within myself. So that's kind of an overview on who I am and what I do.
I was really we were both really wondering, and our biggest question that came is what is the inner narcissist?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the inner narcissist is what I've named the so-called inner critic. It's called inner critic according to the conventional wisdom. And what I've noticed is that this voice, it ticks all the boxes of a narcissist. Right? If we look at the DSM definition, it's grandiose, it's self-important, it's shaming. That's inherently, it tells you what to do, it orders you around. It's got fantasies about unlimited success and how great it is. It believes that it's special, and that you're beneath it. It requires admiration, you worship it. It's got this entitlement. It tells you what to do, bosses you around. And the only thing that it doesn't meet is it's not interpersonally exploitative. The call is coming from inside the house, so it exploits you, but it doesn't necessarily exploit other people. It has zero empathy for you or for your feelings, and it's got a lot of envy for other people and for you, and it does a lot of triangulation. Look at that one over there, she's doing so well and you're a huge failure.
Okay.
So it ticks all the boxes of the narcissist, but we're told to treat it like a wounded child. And this really seemed off base for me, because I've been sitting with this thing, sending love to this thing all my life. And you know what? It just got stronger and stronger. And this voice can also metastasize into something much more malignant. And this is when it says, you might as well not be here. Nobody cares if you not here anymore.
Yes.
And this is the only reason why people really go and take that action of unaliving themselves. You need this voice inside your head. No matter how bad things get on the outside, you need the hook. You need this voice inside your head telling you you might as well not be here, in order for you to actually take that step. So what I've done with myself and what I do with people that I work with is I really show people how to break up with this voice and really take back their power from this voice. this inner narcissist. And we should be treating it just like the narcissist on the outside, rather than feeding it and performing for it and sending love to it and treating it. It's not a wounded child. It's not even you. It's a parasite. It feeds off you and you don't owe it anything. When you stop feeding it, it's got nothing.
Never even thought about seeing it that way. And
No.
now that you speak more on it, you make me really think about how much I do feed that inner critic and how much I really do critic myself. Like, I am like my biggest critic. I am always.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And
the first
and, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the first step in all of this is to recognize that that voice isn't you. So stop calling it you, because that's not you. When you call it you, you're like, I got to send love to it. I got to treat this thing nice. Oh, no, it's not
And that's
you.
what we're always taught. That's what we're taught. So that's not the inner child, is what you're
exactly.
saying. That's not our inner
No.
child. That's something that's been created inside of us.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the ego gone mad.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, particularly in Western cultures, which is extremely narcissistic, our culture is very narcissistic, and the
Very.
foundation of the culture is very narcissistic. Like, the foundation for our culture is very shaming. You're a sinner and you have to forgive. And that's true even if you're not a Christian. If you live in the Western world, that's the foundation. That's in the air that you breathe. That's everywhere, right? So we're kind of taught that you're a sinner just for being you. This is a very special kind of shame that didn't really exist before Christianity. This idea of original sin, it's a very Christian thing. Before Christianity came, in kind of other pyramidical, hierarchical cultures, they had kind of tribal shame. And this is what you see in Japan and the Far East. Collectivist shame is what I call it. This kind of the honor thing. If you do something, you bring shame on the family, and you're shamed for
Yeah.
that. And that's also very toxic. People commit suicide for that, right? But
Yeah.
A
in the
lot.
West, yeah, exactly. But in the West, I feel that it's even more corrosive, because it's not even your behavior. It's just you. You're defective, you're bad, something is wrong with you. And like, if you just look at that thing, that's the foundation for culture. You're a sinner and you have to forgive. That's a double bind.
Yeah.
You could never get out of that. You're a sinner and you have to forgive. There's nothing you can do. You're stuffed. You're there forever and ever. So this is the foundation. This is what we're living and breathing every day. We live in a very, very shaming culture, and shame is actually, it's never. When people talk about healthy shame, they're conflating it with something else. They conflate it with guilt.
That's an
Shame is the belief.
oxymoron. A healthy shame
Yeah,
is an
exactly.
oxymoron.
It's totally, it makes no sense. But if you look at people who talk about shame, like Brene Brown or even John Bradshaw, Brene Brown says that if you don't experience any shame, then you would be a psychopath. And I totally disagree with that. We don't need shame to regulate our behavior and be better humans. We need more empathy. And shame, actually, in the brain, it shuts down our ability to empathize. So this is kind of collective gaslighting that we're getting from society. We're being told, and it's even linguistically enforced. If you look at our language, you have no shame, Jess. You have no shame. You're shameful. You're shameless. It's like you have to have the right amount of shame. You need shame in order to be a good girl or a good boy. And it's the way we control our kids. We shame them. This is how we're taught to control, because this is how we're controlled. And we internalize that shame voice, and then we don't need anyone outside telling us not to be too big, not to be too bold. We do it to ourselves. We internalize that narcissist, and no, that just keeps us under control and nicely in our little box.
It's very much the word was right there and it left. Manipulative. It's very manipulative, and we do it to each other more than we like to admit.
Without even realizing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's because there's a kid here and I want him to be quiet. Shaming him is the quickest way to do it. And I might fool myself and say, oh, I'm doing it, or even teachers, I'm doing it to protect him, but no, it's always about my feelings. Shame is always
Mm-hmm.
about the feelings of the shamer. So the same with this shame voice that we internalize, or the narcissist. Like when it tells you, who are you to do that podcast? Who are you to get up there and sing? And then it says, I'm just trying to keep you safe. I'm just trying to keep you safe. We're taught that this voice, we're taught by therapy and everyone, that this voice is trying to protect us. It's a total lie. It's not trying to protect you. It's trying to protect itself. Just like the narcissist that kicks you in the balls, smashes you in the face, and then says, you made me do it. I'm doing this to protect you. It's a complete lie. It's always
Yeah.
about protecting itself, not about you. And, I have a covert narcissist mother, and she would use shame and say, oh, I'm just trying to keep you safe. But no, it's about her feelings. And that's always
About
the
keeping her
way.
safe.
Exactly. It's about preserving her anxiety. You can't do that. You can't do that healing. I was told I couldn't be a yoga teacher, couldn't be a healer, couldn't do this or that. And that was all about her feelings of anxiety, because that would make her feel anxious. It wasn't about what would be best for me, although she told herself and me that she was saying that for my own good. No, it's always about the shamer, and it's always manipulative. Shame is always manipulative. It's inherently manipulative. And, we're gaslit to believe that shame is some kind of effective regulator of behavior. But actually, the facts don't stand to that, because shame, it might be effective in the moment, but when people experience shame, they tend to close in on themselves. They tend to not really apologize, or if they apologize, it's a very superficial apologize. They tend not to change their behavior. So shame is actually a bad regulator of a bad way to change behavior in the medium to long term. It can work in the moment, and that's why it's used. It looks very effective, it looks very fancy, but people will generally not change their behavior over the long term. And people can get very defensive, because shame says there's something wrong with you. So when people feel shame, they tend to go on the attack. They don't say, oh, I did something wrong. They say, oh my God, you're attacking me. So they might get violent. That's when people get violent. So shaming is never effective. And like I said, it inhibits our ability to empathize. And it's actually counterproductive to our ability to change. So it keeps us very stuck, because shame tells you, be small, be invisible, don't be seen. And, it's classified, or it's often said to mean, this feeling or this belief that I'm not enough, or that there's
Yes.
something
Yeah.
wrong with me. But actually, shame, it's much more than that. It's a toxic cocktail of a bunch of different emotions, and those thoughts and feelings, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, are downstream from that. So if we look at, and it hijacks your body like no other emotion. This is why I say it's not a normal emotion. Like shame is is a toxic cocktail of self-loathing, anger turned inwards, fear, anxiety, frustration, disappointment, all turned against the self. So it's really a form of self-attack. And you can see why that's effective for people who want to manipulate and control you.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
very effective for keeping you stuck. And all this time, culture, everything, shaming, advertisement works with shaming. It's extremely pervasive, particularly in Western culture. And it's always about the people who are in control. It's never beneficial whatsoever. And this is why I say that shame is not a normal emotion. Shame is different, and we need to treat it differently, because we don't.
Yeah.
It's not loving. It has no upside. There's no upside to shame. Like if we look at other uncomfortable emotions, like anger, for example, this can be a sign somebody's breaking my boundaries. I need to stand up for myself. It has a positive function. Same with anger, same with fear. There's a dangerous animal here. I need to go away. I need to get myself and hide myself. But shame
Shame
has
doesn't
no
have a counter. It doesn't have a counter partner in it, does it?
shame has no positive function except to keep you small, and to keep you in your little box, and to keep you controlled. That's basically it. That's the only function that it serves. And it pushes people. I was on a podcast the other day about bulimia. It's the root cause of people pleasing, procrastination, self-sabotage, all kinds of addictions, all
Yes.
kinds of suicide. Like I say, it's the root cause of suicide. Without shame, nobody would ever do it. This is shame is virulent. Shame is super toxic. Yet in our culture, we're told, and we're gaslit to believe that it's good for you and healthy for you. And I believe that's a lie. All of these people are speaking from inside the shame cage, where shame has become so normalized, because it is normalized in our culture, that people think that it's somehow good for you. And this is reinforced, for Christianity. If you suffer for your sins, then you can somehow come out of them. I think it's a complete lie, and it's everywhere. It's a pervasive lie. So we believe it on one level or another until we start to dismantle the lie and take back our power.
I have to agree with that, because now that the more she talks, the more I think about how in the past, like, women have been shamed for anything and everything, and have been held back and from having a successful, like, becoming a successful career. Like, before 1900, we literally weren't allowed to do anything. We weren't allowed to look. We were housewives, and we can't wear skirts above the ankle, and and we were shamed, and you were called slurs like you slut, or all these different names, because you simply had a skirt that was just a little too high if you showed your ankle, and couldn't go out, and it couldn't be outside without having guidance in some areas. And I very much can see how the shame, and it gets passed down for years and generations. It just continues to be passed down through, knowing that we have older generations that are still, alive today, that will sit there and shame us because we're trying to break free of being shamed, and to be open and be more of our emotions, how we were treated. And it's like, how dare you talk to me that way? That's not okay.
It's not just older generations who utilize shame. If you look at social media, young people, shame is the tool of choice to regulate people's behavior. When somebody does something that you don't like on social media, people shame them.
Yes.
So it's not just older people. This is a tool that everybody uses. This isn't an age thing. Shame is normalized across the board for all generations of people. And you're right, this is a generational thing. This has been going on for years and years. You can even look at the story of Adam and Eve as the story, the Garden of Eden. You can look at that as the start of shame. You know. Yet shame is somehow honored, and we live in such a narcissistic world. All our leaders are narcissists, so we kind of worship this narcissistic God. And how do narcissists get what they want? They shame. So this is the tool of control, and we use it. We internalize it, and we use it too because it's effective. It looks good in the moment. And this brings me back what you said about women is very true, because this is fractal. Within families, within dysfunctional or narcissistic families, and in the United States, for example, it's been estimated that between 70 and 80% of families are dysfunctional. So in dysfunctional families, you have this kind of ecosystem where people are assigned shame-based roles, like the scapegoat, and you become the landfill for all the collective shame of the family. The golden child, again, you have to be the good girl. It's a shame role, or the good boy, the golden, but all these are shame. They're
all shame-based.
They're all shame-based roles. You're not really allowed to be yourself. The scapegoat is the one who is most effective. Usually they often go on to become addicts, because your life isn't supposed to work if you're the scapegoat. You're the landfill for all the BS of the family. And this is it fractals out. This isn't just a personal thing. We internalize that shame voice. We internalize the narcissist. We also see it in the collectives, in businesses. You see people being scapegoated, the golden child, the favorite. You see it in countries right now. The golden child in many many countries in the West, it's the white people. The scapegoats at the moment, it's the immigrants, not just in the United States, across the board. So all the collective shame from the golden child, from the civilization, from all the terrible things that have been done, we can't digest that shame. It feels really uncomfortable because shame is indigestible. So what do? We either internalize it and self-destruct, or we find another target for our shame, and that is another scapegoat, currently the immigrants. And you can see how the scapegoat can go on to become their own kind of narcissistic autocrat and commit their own crimes against others. This happens on the personal level and also the collective. You can see it now with Israel, former scapegoats, former golden child, children now committing genocide against their scapegoats. And this is how it plays out. So it's not just individual. And like you said, women have been collectively scapegoated, for men's shame, sexuality, it feels uncomfortable if I'm a sinner. That's women's fault. So women have been scapegoated for generations. So yes, this is why I work primarily, not exclusively, with women, because we have been collectively scapegoated. And we have that extra layer. So this is a multi-layer problem. It's like fractal, it's everywhere, it's huge. But we can work on it on an individual level, and we stop being targets for that shame.
It's really beautifully put. It's something that I've never thought of, and sorry, the words totally left and didn't want to come out, apparently. I also want to, out of curiosity, is that something do you believe it's brought down? Well, of course, you said that it's
generational.
Yeah,
that's so what you're looking for.
It definitely is generational. How do we go about breaking that inner narcissist?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, in the medium to long term, we need to work on both layers. We need to work on the individual level and also on the collective. But we can work on ourselves first, and then we stop, like I said, being targets for shame, because when people shame you, that's their projection. Because, like I said, shame is not an emotion that you can digest and, process. This is why I have such a problem when people say, sit down with your shame, feel the shame. It's a very dangerous thing to say to people, because shame is not a normal emotion. It's not like you feel the fear and then you feel the grief or something else underneath it, or you feel some other emotion underneath that. Shame is a bottomless pit of shame. And
I have to say, when as you're talking, and I'm seeing myself in so many situations, because being a drug addict and being the scapegoat in my family and going through all of that, I see myself. I tried committing suicide multiple times because of the addiction and my shame that I held because I was an addict, and my shame because I didn't know how to get rid of it at the same time.
Well, shame is the cause and the addiction is the symptom. So when the problem is that we're culturally treating the symptom rather than the root cause, and the root cause is shame. So, obviously, if you've got a headache and you're dehydrated, or you've got some other problem in your body, you can take a pill and feel better in the moment. It's a symptom.
It's a Band-Aid.
The headache's going to come back. Yeah, the headache's not going to go away. It's going to come back. You're going to have to keep taking those painkillers, because you're just treating the symptom rather than the root cause. And all of these things, the symptom, there are people who work with people for procrastination, for perfectionism, people pleasing, addictions, as if they're the problem. But that's not the problem. The problem is the shame. The shame is the root cause and the driver of all these things. And scarcity, this feeling of scarcity that people have. This is kind of the policeman of shame. Because shame says you're useless, you're nothing. And when we've got scarcity going, it's kind of the enforcer of shame. It keeps us small. Who are you to have that? You have no friends, you have no money, you're poor. So it enforces and expands this shame. It's kind of like an instrument of shame. So, and we take drugs and alcohol to put the mute button on shame. But if we just deal with then you've seen these people, they're dry drunks, they're not drinking, but they still have all their problems. They're still carrying all their shame, but they're not drinking. They're found another addiction or something that's slightly less less damaging or looks a bit less bad, to kind of put the mute button on it. But you've got to deal with the shame. For the shame is the root cause, and until you address that, you're just playing whack-a-mole with a bunch of symptoms, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. I'm literally, as we talk, I'm literally just seeing me. I am. I'm seeing me, and I'm seeing flashbacks of all the times that when I was using, I would just be, every time I used, I would go into crying spells because of the shame, because I couldn't get
Yeah.
rid of it, because I didn't know how to release it. And you're sitting here talking, I'm like, and I was literally, or that narcissist inside of me was literally just feeding the addiction.
Yeah.
By being
And
ashamed of the addiction, it's feeding the addiction.
exactly, you provide narcissistic supply, like the
Hmm.
narcissist
To
out there in the world.
yourself.
You perform for it, you defend yourself from it, you cry for it. It's like feeds off that. It's
That is
called narcissistic
insane
supply.
to think about it like this. It is absolutely just mind blowing to sit
Yeah.
here and go, I literally, the shame that was projected onto me was me trying to internalize it, and you can't internalize it. Like you said, it's not a normal emotion. It's not an,
Well, yeah, we do internalize it, and the reason why we do that is to cope. I mean, if you were scapegoat in the family, particularly,
mhm,
we kind of think, oh, I'll beat them to the punch. I'll shame myself first so that it won't hurt so much when someone else shames me. So scapegoats often internalize all these beliefs, and I didn't know from a young child. I thought I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm a failure, I'm fat, all of these
mhm.
things. This is what the scapegoat does to cope with all that shame. It can't be. Did you have a narcissistic parent by any chance?
Very much so.
Sorry, it's
Very-
just it very
Yeah,
much
This is
is.
this is textbook then. It's
yeah.
absolutely textbook. You internalize all that shame and put it against yourself because the parent can't be problem. I'm the problem.
Hmm.
So kind of it becomes like a shield when it's very we put that against ourselves, and this is the self. But the scapegoat, like I said, your life is not supposed to work out. Your life is not designed to work out. So you're kind of fated to be the problematic one, the addict, the one who can't get their problem together, their shit
Hmm.
together. And then, the family will be like, oh, yeah, that's the problem. Oh, she
Hmm.
just mental case.
Very much
Hmm.
so.
Very much so.
We never have to deal with our own shame. They project it on you. So, but the cool thing is that you can stop taking that from them. Once you unhook from this inner narcissist, you become unshameable. And let me give you an example of that. I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and this woman was talking about her aunt as a child, and she was a bit chubby, and they were eating ice cream. She and her friend were eating ice creams. And this adult comes up to them and says, you shouldn't be eating ice cream, it'll make you fat. And these girls, they could have felt, think of all the shame they could have felt, they could have shrunk, they could have dropped their ice cream. You know what they did? They laughed in his face. So we don't have to take people's projection of shame. This is a choice. And once you recognize that, take back your power. And you need the hook. Like if I come to you, Sela, and I say, you've got a big nose or whatever, in order for you to experience shame there, you need to have this narcissist inside that says, oh my God, I have such a big nose, I'm such a... Otherwise, you'll just think, this woman is crazy, and laugh in my face or just ignore me. So we can free ourselves of shame, not by changing the other person, by freeing ourselves of this inner narcissist. And that's the real
Okay.
power. Yeah, that's the real power move. You don't take it in. And it's like a parasite. It's like if you have a parasite in your gut, you don't send it love and take it to therapy and try to understand it. And no, we don't
You
do that.
take an
But that's
anti-parasitical and you get rid of it.
exactly. But that's not what we're taught to do with this so-called inner critic, we're taught that it's trying to keep you safe, that it's trying to look after you, that it's worried about you. Absolute BS. This thing only cares about itself, just like a narcissist. And it has nothing over you. It's like a parasite. It's like a light bulb. It extracts all its energy from you. So every time you perform for it, every time you argue with it, defend yourself against it, it's getting more energy, getting more what's called narcissistic supply, and getting stronger. And then it metastasizes. It can metastasize into something much more virulent, where it starts saying, you might as well be dead. You know, this is when
Yeah.
people go on
That's what it did to
to,
me.
you know, take the overdose or something. And that's not about circumstances. That's about this internalized narcissistic voice. Like I said, without that, you would not do any of this stuff. You would not self-destruct. You would not take drugs. You would not try to destroy yourself. You would not project your shame at someone else, because this shame, in order to feel better, this is why women shame each other, because we're carrying, you know, an extra large dose of shame, because we've been collectively scapegoated. So we're like crabs in the bucket. We pull each other down. Oh, she's got wrinkles. She's got a big ass. You know, and we're projecting our shame on them, and shame is always a projection. It's never true, because it's always a lie, and it's always manipulation. Nothing else. There's nothing good about shame except keeping people controlled.
There's so many people out there that are walking through day to day, wrestling with themselves on a constant basis just to get through the day because of this narcissist
It very
inside of
much
us
makes you.
that society has taught us, that society has created. It, like,
It teaches us to go into self-destruct mode.
yeah, that's insane. Like, wow. I'm so glad you came on here, because I'm looking at myself in a whole different way.
Yeah,
It
this is
definitely.
it's a very empowering way of looking at things, because, you know, it's a parasite. It's not you. We've been taught to take this thing to therapy. You don't take a narcissist to therapy. You know, that's the
You
thing not
can't.
to
They don't
do.
even know that they're a narcissist.
They can't accept
They
that
They
they
will
are.
won't.
they will project it, they will play you, they will manipulate. It's a waste of time. You walk away, you go no contact, you take back your power. But with this narcissist that we've internalized, we're taught to treat it like a wounded child and poor little baby. That's not what you do with the parasite. You don't send it love and try to understand it. You evict the fucker. And that's what we've got to do with this inner narcissist too, because that's the real power move. Then we become unshameable.
Absolutely.
Because I know that something that you was something that you had on your profile when we were checking everything out. It says that when your healing doesn't work, it's because of the inner narcissist is still in charge, and that's why
Yeah.
your mind of the mindset, and that's why your therapy won't work, your energy healing won't work, and because that shame is still running the
Running
entire
the show.
show.
Yeah.
That's what,
Yeah,
and that's why you
100.
have your reoccurring addicts going, okay, I relapsed.
Yeah. So shame is like the lowest vibration there is. It's like one step
Yes, it
over
is.
death.
Yeah,
So
it is. It
it
actually
says
creates
you're
disease.
defective, you're wrong, you're bad, you know. So yeah, of course, if you're carrying shame, even unconsciously, and you know, even men or narcissists, they're operating out of shame. You know this, like Donald Trump, he's not free of shame. This is why he's so triggered when he gets criticism. He gets angry because it triggers his shame, his repressed shame. So narcissism, the foundation for narcissism is shame. That's a shame, repressed shame. And you know, if you really thought you were great, you could say anything to me. You could insult me, and I'd be like, whatever. You know, I know I'm great. I don't need your validation. I don't need anything from you. I know I'm fantastic as I am. That's shamelessness. That's true shamelessness. So narcissists are driven by shame, and their favorite tool, their tool of choice is shame. That's how they control other people, because that's how they're controlled. So it's a super toxic cycle.
We're taught to see that as condescending. When you say that, when you sit there and you did not be shameless. Yeah, I'm great. I know I'm great. Like, you can't say anything to hurt me. Like, I not that like the perfectionist, but I very much can see how we've been raised to see that as a condescending situation, as even though somebody, because we want them to feel hurt. We want them to feel shame.
Yeah, because we think that will change their behavior, as I said before, shame is a poor regulator of behavior. It may work in the moment, but definitely for the medium to long term, it causes people to shrink in on themselves and become defensive. They're less likely to change. You can see it in our prison system, which is very shaming. People get
Yes,
Oh
out of
my
jail
goodness,
and commit
yes.
the crime again. So shame is not an effective, and there have been studies on this. It's effective in the moment, but it's not effective. It's a very, very poor regulator of behavior. You know, if you shame your partner for doing something wrong, they're less likely to change their behavior than if you just get them to empathize with you and recognize that they hurt you and that it wasn't them, it was their behavior, the thing that they did. When you shame
Hmm.
them, they'll get defensive, they'll get angry, it'll become a big thing, and they're much less likely to change.
Well, the argument becomes something completely different at that point.
Yeah, it becomes you're attacking me because you are. If you're shaming
You
someone,
are.
you're attacking them ad hominem. That's what shame is. It says you're not good enough, you're defective, there's something wrong with you. But really, if we need to keep it on the behavior rather than the person, because
Yes.
the person is very different. We've all done terrible things. But I was
Yes.
talking to someone a few days ago, and they were told by their therapist, and this will just show you how deeply this goes, and that they had done bad things in their life, so against others and against themselves, and it was good that they felt shame about that. So this just shows you how normalized shame is, not only in the world at large, but in the therapy world. Shame is considered a sign of conscience. And it's absolutely not that. I reject that outright, that is about conscience. You don't need shame to have a conscience, you need empathy. Arguably, you need guilt as well to recognize that you've done something wrong, to feel some fear. But in an enlightened society, you wouldn't need that too. You would just need empathy and connection.
Hmm.
And like I said, shame shuts that down. And shame takes the attention from the action to the person. So it
It
conflates the whole thing.
completely covers up the whole. So, in other words, we're fighting, but we're not actually taking care of the situation. We're too busy passing around blame. We're too busy passing around shame. We're too busy doing all these other things instead of actually looking at what's going on in a lot of cases.
Exactly. Yeah. When you blame and shame people, you take your focus off the action that was done,
Hmm.
and it becomes an ad hominem attack on the individual. And this is why they become defensive. They become angry. You know, it's cult. It's a cult-like behavior. Narcissistic families operate like cults. You know,
Yes.
keep it in the family, keep quiet, and you can see this in the wider fractals, like MAGA, it's a cultish, and they're scapegoating immigrants. Israel, again, very cultish. Anything you say against them, they take it as a personal attack because they experience that shame. They're all operating out of repressed shame, and shame is the driver and the root cause of that. Shame that's unprocessed and that's just kind of stuck in their system that they're trying to get rid of.
never seen it that way. I definitely. I'm out of curiosity. What helped you find or figure out that it was shame that was basically repressing you from healing?
Yeah, like you mentioned before, I'd been doing lots of healing on myself for, over a decade. And I was seeing everyone else get these amazing, I was going to therapy and all these things. And other people were getting these amazing quantum leaps. And I would just maybe feel a bit better for a while and then revert back.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was very frustrating because I was doing all the right things but wasn't seeing the benefit. It wasn't really until I started seeing the dysfunction of my family and recognizing that it was the scapegoat that I started to recognize that shame was the underlying problem. Because, like I think you mentioned before, shame is like the lowest frequency, the lowest vibration. So if you're trying to manifest something to create a new identity, if you've got shame down here, it's kind of like an anchor that pulls you to the bottom of the sea, and you can't really rise up. This is why people. I don't know if you know that film, The Secret. Some people had great success with it, and then some people, they did all the things and nothing worked. The reason why is because their shame. And obviously, if you're down there in the depths of the ocean with all of your shame, and you're trying to manifest a new life for yourself and visualize it, the shame will not let you do that.
And it's just hold you down
It
like the
holds you down,
sandbags
yeah.
on an air balloon.
Exactly. It's massive. 10 tons, 20 tons, 100 tons of shame will make sure that
Crippling.
you don't never rise to that level, because who are you to do that?
Yeah. I'm glad I dropped my shame.
I really hope that people can, especially from this episode, gather a lot of information and help. It helps them through their healing processes, because I've faced a lot of different types of traumas, and I will say that like my sexually abused trauma, it definitely, that was where my shame really held me. That's where it held me down a lot. And as I started recovering from it and not letting it, I didn't see it the way I should have saw it. And I didn't see it as, I didn't see it as a rape, as a situation. I saw it as I was there, I was presently there, but I didn't see the manipulation that was played on me. And that kept me thinking I was sick. I was the one that was sick. And so, sorry, I'm still healing from that. I want to cry now. But knowing that there was the shame that made me feel that I was in the wrong and it wasn't the other way around. And that knowing that that was what was holding me back and holding me down for the longest, it helps a lot. And I really hope that helps other women and other people through that, because I know that that right there, having that trauma holds a lot of women back.
100%. And shame also, this is why, after people have been sexually abused, they're told to keep quiet about it, because shame thrives in the darkness. Don't talk about it, don't say anything. And this is why conversations like this about shame are very important. And also, what's
Yes.
been helpful for me and lots of people that I work with is to recognize that this isn't personal. This is societal, this is fractal,
Hmm.
this is
Yes.
everywhere.
You're not
This is
broken.
not, yeah, this is, our society is broken. Our
Yeah.
society is really messed up and toxic.
Yes, it is.
And your shame is the consequence of that. You're not the cause of that. You're another symptom. What you're feeling is a symptom of how toxic our society is.
So let me ask you this. You were practicing, correct?
Practicing.
You go around, if people want to get a hold of you or anything, is there you have a book out, correct? Or do I have that
I
wrong?
don't have a book yet, but before that, I want to talk about, if I could, about I have a system for helping people break out when they experience shame.
Yes,
So I
Yes,
can give.
please,
yes,
please,
most
please.
definitely.
Okay, so the system is break, BREAK, right? So when shame, like we talked about, how it's kind of hijacks your body, you've got to, first of all, recognize the foundation piece, recognizing that shame is never useful, identify it, recognize that it's not you, right? Recognize that it's
Hmm.
never helpful. Then you want to break the trance. Recognize that this shame, it's not your voice, it's a spell, it's a pattern, it's like a trance that you've been acting out. And once you catch it and interrupt it, name it as a trance, that automatically disrupts the loop. So that's number one, that's B. Then you go on to R, which is refuse to engage. This one is important. So you don't, just like with the narcissist, you don't explain or defend yourself against it, you just drop the rope. And Dr. Ramani, who's kind of the expert on narcissists out there, she talks about deep. Don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. So when this voice pipes up in your head and says you're stupid, you're ugly, you're pathetic, don't argue and defend yourself. That just gives it more power. Just say, not today, bitch. You don't owe it
Yeah.
any, or not today,
I
Satan,
love
not
that
today.
doctor.
Yeah,
Dr.
not
Emily?
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, not today. It ain't happening. You don't owe this thing any courtesy. It's been a bitch to you your whole life, so you don't owe it anything, and it's not you. So recognize that it's not you. Then we go on to E, which is expose the lie. So you want to call out the shame-based programming and recognize that this is control. This is not your story. And speaking that truth already disarms its power. Then you come on to A, which is anchor your truth, because shame, like I said, is the toxic cocktail of self-loathing, anger, all turned inwards against the self. It takes you out of your body. So you've got to come back to your body, feel your breath, plant your feet on the floor, say your name and the year, and really remind your nervous system, because it is your nervous system that acts when you're experiencing. It's like shame puts you into survival mode. That's it. It puts you into survival mode 100%. So you want to remind your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm sovereign, I'm here, everything's okay. And then K is kick it out. You stomp it out, you shake it out. This is not mine. You can physically do that by moving your body. And this is how you evict the spell from your body when shame strikes. And like I said, it might be a voice in your head that says you're stupid or you're ugly or you're too fat or you're too thin or whatever the BS that it's spouting, or it can also be like an emotional hijack, or it can be a combination of both. So this is really powerful to take back your power from it. Because like I said, it has zero power in and of itself. It extracts all its power, all its energy from you. It's nothing without you. It's a shell.
Wow.
That is crazy that we're all empowering our own worst enemy inside of us.
Exactly. But you can disempower.
Yeah.
Disempower. You have all the
You
power
have all
here.
the power to undo what's been done.
Yeah. And you don't even need to change the narcissistic mother, the family. You just need to deprogram yourself
And yeah,
from
within
it.
yourself. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Do you have anything out there for other people to be able to look up or your techniques or any other information on this, like a website or anything like that?
Yes. You could find my writings about this. There is a plan to do a book, but that's
Okay.
further down the line. So for the time being, I'm Trauma Matrix on Substack, so traumamatrix.substack.com, so you can follow me there. And on the social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok and everywhere, I am trauma.matrix. So you can find me there as well. And I also have a free gift for people. So if you're listening to this and think, yes, this is me, I have raising your hand, I have this narcissist voice inside that's living inside me, and yeah, I'm ready to do something about it. This is your call to action. I have a free guide for you, which is called 5 Signs That It's Time to Break Up with Your Inner Narcissist. So it gives you 5 signs that it's actually high time for you to evict that thing and take back your power, and also has strategies and tools to make that happen. So you can find that at tinyurl.com/not today narc. Not today NARC. So not
I like
today
that.
narc.
Not today.
Yeah,
I like
not
that.
today. Not today. It ain't happening. It has no power over you. You have all the tools. You've just given them away.
Yeah.
You've just given your power away. Take back your power. You owe this thing nothing.
Well, I personally know quite a few people that can use this, me included. I will be checking it out further. Um, we all have work to do. Um,
I
I,
I personally I just want to say thank you
yes.
for coming on here, for even reaching out to us. We were blown away, and we absolutely appreciate you coming on here and giving this information, showing us and other people, our other listeners, how to break away from a cycle that is, like you said, it's just society.
Society is brainwashing you to hate yourself, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you go on the Substack, I have an essay about that, how particularly in the West we've been brainwashed to hate ourselves, we've been taught to hate ourselves
Yeah.
as a mechanism of control, and it's always about control, and you can take back your power. It's simple.
Well, we appreciate the work that you do, for sure. That, this is something that definitely needs to be spread out there more. And we appreciate you coming on here. We appreciate all the information that you've given us, and definitely opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I do myself. I'm already on the healing journey, but I'm still on that healing journey. And all the information that we can get out there to help others is so important.
Oh, well, awesome. I'm so great, so glad to hear that this has been helpful for you.
Yes, it absolutely has. First-hand experience. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
And like I said, I hope it helps a lot of other people. And
I'm sure it will.
so I will. Well, thank you, Emma, for joining us, and I really hope that we do get to have future conversations with you again on this subject and even other subjects on these kinds of things. And let us know when that book comes out. That would be amazing. And for everybody else, thank you for looking in through the glass and listening to us and Emma and her beautifully mind-blowing realization on shame and how it holds us back. You can also check us all out on Amazon, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you guys want to give us a listen, a follow, you can follow us on TikTok as well. Look in through the glass, and go check out our Facebook as well. If you know somebody or yourself, please come be a part of our podcast. Be on. Need to help or need to speak out. We are here. We want everybody to have a voice. Thank y'all.